Make sure to check us out on Letterboxd for written reviews.
For films that we've done not only on the podcast, but outside of the podcast too.
Links in the description below.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Rewatch Podcast. My name is Samuel.
My name is Jayden.
And today we have our very special guest, Millsy, again with us. How are you doing, mate?
Hello.
So this is a podcast where we talk extensively about a certain film and then decide whether it deserves a rewatch from you. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any other place you listen to podcasts. And if you enjoy the show...
You can leave a like and a comment down below.
And also you can send us an email at theonerewatchpodcast@gmail.com. What movie are we talking about today, Millsy?
We are talking about Dune.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it recently just came out, obviously based on the book. So we're going to go to a story overview of the film.
Yes.
And then after that, we're going to disclose our knowledge of things, of the Dune world. So let's go to that story overview, Jayden.
Rightio. So, Paul Atreides, a brilliant, gifted young man born into a great destiny beyond his understanding, must travel to the most dangerous planet in the universe to ensure the future of his family and his people. As malevolent forces explode into conflict over the planet's exclusive supply of the most precious resource in existence, only those who can conquer their own fear will survive.
Ooh.
Very cool. I love a good plot synopsis that's a bit gloomy and sinister. Yeah. So, Dune, obviously based on the book, the many books, but this...
Herbert.
Yeah, by Frank Herbert.
Frank who?
Herbert.
Is that his name?
Yeah, published in the 1960s, I think. So this is old stuff.
Oh, before Star Wars and that?
This was the inspiration for Star Wars.
Yeah.
No way.
So there's a few details. Oh, I almost.
Ooh,
there's a few details of the Star Wars plotline that are literally in Dune that George Lucas just went, I'll have that.
Yeah, well,
right.
I think the most apparent one, this isn't a spoiler, is the Bene Gesserit kind of being the force of the Star Wars.
Using the voice, commanding people. But then also you have the sand planet, with Tatooine being the sand planet.
With all,
You'll begin to notice them as we start.
Yeah, true.
And there all sorts of media as well, not just Star Wars, just all sorts of other sci-fi things.
Yeah, this was the first piece of sci-fi to ever exist.
Yeah.
So what a way to fucking start it off. Holy.
Exactly. Yeah. So I've read the book, the first book. That's it. So my knowledge is limited on that basis in terms of the lore of Dune. Mm-hmm. Just going off the first book. Now this film is based on sort of the first half of the book, maybe even slightly more than the first half of the book. Mm-hmm. And you lads have not read the book. That's correct.
I've read part of the book. Yeah.
Right. And how are you going? What sort of page are you up to?
It's starting to get a lot more clear now.
Okay.
And thank God, because I was reading that prior to watching the film, and I was like, oh my God, I don't understand it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just read pages and it's it's just not going through you.
Yeah.
But now that I've watched it, I'm okay, I understand this character, understand what's happening here. So
and with my experience with the movie, I'm kind of it's like a Quentin Tarantino movie. Have you ever seen Once Upon a Time?
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm watching it, I'm what the hell is going on
here?
Yeah. But then at the end, it sounds oh, okay, that was for that was for that. Yeah. And is it like that for the book? Are you reading it and you're, what the hell's going on?
Yeah. So if you ask me what
careful.
So the first time in the book, the first scene is the Gom Jabbar scene. So the scene where he puts his hand in the box.
Yeah, it's kind of mixed around a
bit. That's the first. Yeah. Oh, that's what I was going to ask. Yeah.
And then from there, you go straight to the bad guys, but you don't know they're the bad guys yet. So you're just who are these people? And they've got people present at their meeting, and you get the names of them, and you're I don't know who these people are, what they're doing, where they are in the galaxy.
Yeah.
But slowly you get exposition sort of thing through
Yeah.
dialogue in the book
Yep.
of just characters talking to other characters, sort of like explaining the world, and you're sort of like piecing it all together. So then now that I've read the book, I'm actually quite interested to rereading the first book and picking up what's actually going on in those first couple scenes, because it is a bit like this word, I don't know what any of this means.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then there is like a dictionary thing at the back of the book,
Really?
but it contains spoilers for the actual book itself. Like it'll give you the character born this died this way, and it's like, whoa, hang on a second, like let me read the book first, mate. Like I'm just trying to find out who this guy is. Like
even like the blurb on the back of the book is like a huge spoiler.
Right.
Like, yeah, I was
So,
like,
okay, so
what's that
steer
about?
clear of the back.
yeah, exactly. So that's sort of the perspective that we're all coming from.
Yep.
And I'm going to I'll try. I will
Hold
not
your tongue.
spoil the
Yes.
the next movie, which will be part 2 of the first book. So, but it is going to be interesting to talk about. So I do want to sort of get your thoughts, and I'm not going to confirm or deny any of your theories. So don't come looking to me for any sort of confirmation.
Yep.
But yeah, so directed by Denis V. Denis V. Denis Villeneuve,
French-Canadian.
French-Canadian director.
Where's the name?
Yeah, at the top.
And so, Jayden, what are your thoughts on Denis V's
Look,
films so far?
I don't know if you've seen any of these movies.
Oh, The Arrival.
This is what he's done. So he's done Arrival, which you might have seen. He's very hit or miss with me. I think his next best one for me is Blade Runner 2049. But like, Prisoners is pretty good. I'll give him that. But even like, Enemy, and I haven't seen Sicario, but he's very hit or miss with me. And I think it's just because he has a hard time pacing his stories. Like a lot of them are ridiculously long. Like
Just slow, I would say. Like
slow and long. Like
Yeah,
they're long
yeah.
movies.
that's a Blade Runner, slow and long.
Yeah, and I think Dune was a lot better paced. I think every scene was, it added to the story, and it just kind of got itself moving.
Yeah.
Whereas with Blade Runner, it was just, some parts are just so stretched out. And like, I think you probably relate to that as well.
Yeah, if I watch Blade Runner and I'm like slightly tired, like it'll almost put me to sleep.
Yeah.
So I got to watch it when I'm like I've had 8 hours of sleep, because otherwise I'm just like, I'm not enjoying this, man.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to keep my eyes open.
See, I think that point is interesting that you made, Jayden, about the pacing, because you two are like more movie fanatics, you know,
Yeah.
all the
We'll put
you're
up
really
with
into it.
Yeah.
Me, I'm more of a casual viewer / movie fanatic. Like I can
Yeah.
I can talk with you guys about movies, but
Yeah.
I can't go into the details
Yeah.
as much as you guys could. And I'm more of the casual side. Like I can talk casually about movies with the mates,
Yep.
and they can understand what I'm saying.
Yep.
So, like the group I went to see the movie with, we had me and Jayden there, but then the rest were like, quote unquote, casual movie
Yeah.
viewers.
Yep.
Right.
And one or two of them, after the movie, they just sat there going, "That was the most boring movie I've ever seen." It's like,
right.
and I was there on the line because I really enjoyed it. Like I love the movie, but it's like I could tell that the casual viewer would think like, "What was that? What am I watching right now?"
100%.
Would you say that's because of like all of the complex names and the lore, and it's all a bit too much, or
Yeah, and I'm not saying that like, "Oh, we're so intelligent," like, but you
Yeah.
have to like,
you have to
you've got
devote
to
your
be
energy.
wanting to understand it.
Yeah.
You don't want to
like-
come into it with like, "Oh, let's see a bunch of guys stabbing each other."
Yeah.
Like you want to know the story and understand
This
the
movie
characters.
is like vastly different from something like, James Bond, the
Or
most
like,
recent one.
yeah, or like an
Which-
Avengers movie.
Or like
Yeah.
just Star Wars.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Star Wars is a lot more accessible than
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
Yeah, like swords dodging and weaving,
Yeah.
and it's like, yeah, it's deep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's just because like there is that lore is so deep, and it's trying to tell a more meaningful story than just like the Game of Thrones, like, oh, this house doesn't like this house, now they're going to fight and it's going to be an awesome war.
Yeah.
And there is a bit of that stuff, but like in terms of house v house conflict and like really interesting like betrayals and stuff like that. But there is a sort of deeper sort of like character driven aspect of it.
Yeah.
And it sort of reminds me of Tenet, what you were just saying just then, like in terms of the casual sort of going, expecting something and
Yeah.
then getting something different, and then going like throwing their hands up and being like, this movie just wasn't good, like
Yeah.
because it just didn't interest me. And that's like fine from their perspective, but
Yeah.
I think there's something deeper if you if you are interested in like what the core sort of theme is, I think this will like really be something special.
Anyways, let's get you excited because let's just take a look at the cast, the crew for this film. The cinematographer, who obviously did all the camera work for Dune, is actually, I'm just finding his name here.
It's Greg Fraser, maybe?
Is it Greg Fraser? Yeah, it's Greg Fraser. And he has done Rogue One, but he's doing the Batman.
Yeah, so cinematography is going to be...
Yeah. So think about like Matt Reeves with the Batman and then...
You know, that's just reminded me of, remember that tweet that came out with like 4 shots of the Batman like trailer? And was it you that said like, oh my god, this is the best cinematography I've ever seen in a movie? Or am I just imagining that?
He probably said that.
It's just 4 shots of the movie, like calm down. But yeah, anyway, sorry, yeah.
That's the reason why, you know, the Batman is going to look so good is because...
It was you that said that, yeah.
It's one of us.
That's right, it was you.
I'm honestly surprised it wasn't me. Like, I could have easily said that. Like,
yeah.
I am a bit of a sucker for some good visuals and cinematography. That's like one of the things that I really look for in films. Even just then when I just came back from Spider-Man and Heidi was like, I think you just look at it more than me because I thought the CGI was pretty good and I was like, nah, in this scene, like the green screen was very obvious.
And see, that's the difference between the casual and the movie side. Like, you're looking at each CGI thing and
I'm like... You're trying to pick it out.
Yeah. And I think that's the problem I have with... I know, I always, every time I come on this podcast, I hate on Marvel action scenes. Like, every single time, but like, I can relate so much to it, like the CGI in it.
Yeah.
Once you know it, you hate it.
Yeah. You can't sort of think of anything else. Like, you can't
Doctor
just...
Strange thing was...
Yeah, that's what I said. I was like, oh, that Doctor Strange.
The one where he's like on the train and you can see like the whole city behind him and Doctor Strange is just like standing on a green screen.
Oh,
yeah, not good. Anyway,
this is Dune. So
other people in Dune that you wanted to shout out in terms of the...
I mean, the cast is... Yeah, let's get up the second movie, because... Actually, this is going to surprise you. Maybe I'm wrong about this.
In terms of the second movie?
I'm pretty sure Anya Taylor-Joy...
Oh, she's been fan cast. It's not confirmed yet.
Yeah, well, she's kind of fan cast.
Is that...
That's Queen's Gambit.
Oh, yeah.
She's a fantastic actress.
She's supposed to be fan cast as Princess Irulan, or...
Whoa. Not mentioned.
No, but in the book, like, in even the first part of the book, she is. She's just omitted from the film.
Right.
When you read the book, and Jayden will know this, like, before every chapter, there's, like, a poem or a quote or something, and sometimes they're more vague than others, but most often the quote will like relate to a theme that's in the next chapter, and usually it's like got a like where the quote is from, it's like referenced, and it's like from this book by Princess Irulan, so she's like documenting like the story, and so it's sort of like the quotes like from her sort of retelling the story. So she comes in the second part, but I won't say like as what. But but I think it would be cool to see Anya Taylor-Joy. We had a debate about how to pronounce that in the last podcast. But Jen, you want to go to the cast for this movie, and we'll sort of go through
let's do
who our favourites are.
So obviously the major one is Timothée Chalamet.
Yeah, Timmy C.
As Paul Atreides. What did the boys think of him?
Millsy?
I think this is the first movie I've ever seen in.
Same actually.
And I've heard, I've been on the internet, as the kids say.
Yes.
And like I've just seen all the girls fangirling about him over and over, and he was the hottest man alive.
Yeah.
And I look at him and I'm like,
really?
And you know what's funny? You know how Zendaya and Tom Holland are dating?
Yeah.
I see the parallel between Tom Holland and Timothée Chalamet.
Yeah. It's
especially,
like the same
and
thing.
it's like I'm subconsciously getting confused between the two movies because Zendaya is in both.
Yeah.
And she's dating, well, not dating, but like she's dating Tom Holland in one, and like there's scenes in the movie which suggest.
Yeah.
It's like, are they the same guy?
It's funny because Tom Holland is actually like starting to change his hair into
the long hair.
So I think he's just starting to get jealous of
as an actor, I think he's alright.
Yeah.
He had more of a Anakin Skywalker type, like teen. What am I trying to say here? Teen, like angst,
Just like
Yeah,
emo
okay.
teen sort of
angst
thing.
to
Yeah.
him that I thought it was
Teen
like,
angst, yeah.
and it's like I enjoyed it, but
Mm.
I think I have to see more to base
Sure.
a proper.
Yeah,
Yeah, fair.
He's got it. Well, he's in Interstellar as well. If you've seen that,
I have.
He's like one of the
He's
kids
one of the-
in one of the.
Oh.
He's Matthew McConaughey's son.
Yeah.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, but like not for long. Like
Yeah,
he's-
no.
yeah.
He's got a pretty impressive cinematography, filmography under
yeah.
his belt.
Yeah, I've seen him recently in Beautiful Boy, which is a story about a dad and a son. Timothy is the son, and Steve Carell's the dad from The Office,
Mm-hmm.
and he plays like a drug addict, and he's really good in that. Like I
Yeah.
think he might have gotten some awards for that.
He's
Oh, yeah.
genuinely like a fantastic actor. Like some of these, some actors and actresses just get put in these movies and they finally get to realize like their potential after being in the MCU
Yeah,
for
right.
so long. Like
Yeah.
Dave Bautista.
Yeah.
And then this movie allows them to actually act,
Yeah,
and that's
same with
the
Jason
case.
Momoa, really.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the case
Yeah.
with Timothy Chalamet, but he's been a fantastic actor for
Yeah.
quite some time,
Mm.
and I honestly think he's probably like the next Leonardo DiCaprio.
He
Whoa,
is.
big
Certainly,
claim.
It's
Yeah.
a big claim.
Big claim.
but yeah, he is like a child actor. Like he did
Yeah.
start early, but
Yeah.
like consistently good. Like I don't think there's a bad performance of him, but I need
Yeah.
to go back and look at some of his other films. But yeah, who's next billed? I reckon it's Rebecca Ferguson.
Rebecca Ferguson.
Oh, she was fantastic in my opinion.
Who's the mother?
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think she's also Mission Impossible.
Yep.
Yeah.
She's
Yeah.
in Mission Impossible.
I've seen her in a couple things.
She's also in the Shining remake.
Yeah,
Doctor
I haven't
Sleep.
seen her before
Yeah.
in
You
anything.
haven't seen her before?
No.
I recognise the face, but I can't pick out a movie that she'd been in.
She's actually quite good in Doctor Sleep. Doctor Sleep isn't a bad movie. I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, right.
I thought her performance in this film was perhaps like the best
I
out
think
of
it was-
everyone.
I think it was one of the best.
Yeah.
Just because of the emotion that she's sort of exerting. There's a lot of people in this movie that are sort of just doing like the dark and sort of brooding
Yeah.
performance where like someone will just like they never really smile. They'll just be
Staunching,
like
yeah.
sort of like that Josh Brolin's performance as Gurney Halleck, so Thanos.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Yeah.
he's like always just like very like stern, and whereas a lot of people are like that, and if everyone was like that, you'd be like, oh, this movie's kind of like just taking itself a bit too seriously.
Yeah.
But like Rebecca Ferguson, like her emotion is visible, like she puts the emotion out there, like she'll just cry like out loud, whereas nobody else is like sort of doing
She's
that.
really the only one doing that, right?
Yeah.
And especially in the Benny Gesserit scene where, Paul's obviously going through some stuff.
The Gom Jabbar scene where he's got the
Gom Jabbar,
hand
yeah.
in the box.
Yeah. Or, Gom Jabbar / Benny Gesserit.
Yeah.
And then she's kind of just standing on the other side of the door and she's like having a breakdown, remembering like what she went through. Yeah, it's just some fantastic stuff.
Yeah. In terms of those are sort of the main two, did we like anyone else specifically that we'll touch on before?
Well, here's the cast if you want to look through them just to pick anyone out.
I did enjoy Oscar Isaac's performance.
Same,
It
actually.
wasn't like a main performance, obviously, but
Mm-hmm.
that's spoiler stuff in the movie.
Yep.
I was really interested to see Oscar Isaac because I think he's a really good actor. He's just been in absolute crap.
Yeah.
I loved him as Poe Dameron in The Force Awakens.
I think
then
that's
that-
one of the better parts of the new Star
Yeah,
Wars.
and then the character sort of just fell off a cliff after that, like
Yeah.
most of the characters did, to be honest.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Let's not get into that.
but I was so excited to see him in that role, just in the trailers and stuff, because I knew that he could very easily do that sort of dad role.
Yeah.
And he just nailed it, like,
Yeah.
brilliant.
I think
So,
this is not more me about an actor, but Jason Momoa, I think every time I see him in a movie, I kind of like picture him doing the same role. It's kind of like The Rock for me. Like
Yeah.
you see The
That's
Rock in
fair.
a movie, and it's like it's where an actor plays himself, not
Yeah.
the character.
Yeah.
Like Jason
Ryan
Momoa's
Reynolds.
always got the same tendencies,
Well,
the same like.
It's funny you say that because it's kind of like his real life personality is like Duncan.
Yeah.
He's just like a big lovable dude.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
like
it's like a big
perfect.
teddy bear,
Yeah,
but he's
yeah.
actually can kill you with
Yeah.
any
Yeah.
with ease.
In
Yeah.
seconds.
Yeah.
I think Jason Momoa and Dave Bautista really were done justice here. Obviously, they've been in some pretty terrible movies. Dave Bautista's been in a few Marvel movies which aren't good.
Hey, Guardians of the Galaxy, what are you talking about?
It's alright. But
You said Guardians of the Galaxy 2 is like one of your favourite films.
yeah, but it's not a good movie.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. But
Not
you know,
cinema as much.
let's just look at his filmography. You know, he's got Stuber, he's got Army of the Dead, Spectre, which all are
Riddick
good
is
movies.
terrible.
Yeah, and then he's got like Guardians, which are but you know, Dune is like his first movie that he's actually.
Oh, he's in Blade Runner 2049. Let's
True,
not forget.
so-
He's in the opening scene of that, and he is sensational.
But that's such a minor.
yeah,
role.
it's like he's like on screen for like a couple minutes.
Yeah.
And it's not like we're expecting brilliance here. He was a WWE star.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not like
But
was
he is
born
good.
after,
Like
yeah.
he, like Army of the Dead. Like say what you will about the movie itself, but like he was pretty good
Yeah.
in my opinion. Like
And it's just so satisfying to see him put in one of these movies because I'm pretty sure he's publicly said it. He's wanting to do movies that he genuinely cares about
and
that
like
he-
pushes
and
performance.
pushes his performance. So it's pretty cool to see him in a movie like this where he can really shine. And same with Jason Momoa. I mean, he's been stuck in the DCEU, which is not good for some time. And this just really allowed him to kind
Yeah,
of break
and
through.
he is sort of like perfectly cast. Like,
Yeah.
and he doesn't really need to do much except like be like the big brother, but then like
Yeah.
also like kill some dudes. Like, and
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
kind of in his repertoire. Like that's sort of what he does well. So it's sort of like when you're casting like a big spy for an action movie who like can crack jokes, you're like, oh, it's either going to be Dwayne the Rock Johnson or Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
so yeah.
And some movies take both of those actors.
Yeah, and then make a terrible movie.
He actually liked Red Notice, which is funny.
I
Really?
enjoyed it.
Okay.
That's a topic for a different discussion.
Jeez, all right. I mean, I'm a big Gal Gadot fan. that didn't get me through that movie. Oh, goodness me. All right, let's go then. We'll leave the characters behind. I'm sure they'll pop up as we go. But in terms of visuals, I mean, Danny B, like his visual style is just so incredible.
Yeah.
And it's something that you're going to get going into Danny B movie. But lads, what did we think of a few of the visual aspects? So like the cinematography and then like the costume design and how the VFX and everything.
Color grading of the comic.
How it looked,
Yeah, I think I really enjoyed the visuals. Obviously, like one thing I'm thinking of like is the big ship that looks like an egg where the priestess people come out of. You know what I'm talking about? That like stuff like that. Like you can really sense the
Is that like
scale.
Are you talking about like the first one on Caladan, like really early?
I don't know the planet names, but where the lady who can use the voice is like the grandmother.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
on
yeah.
Caladan.
Yeah, right.
At the start.
The cinematography like that, where you can really sense the scale of things and like.
Huge ships and
I think the costumes are really cool, especially like the Fremen, what are they called, steel suits?
the still suits, yeah.
Still suits, yeah. Those are really cool. I think some of the costumes definitely look goofy.
Which
Like,
ones would you say that for?
The Baron's one, where he's like that orange, like 10 feet long one. I think that looks a bit like goofy,
Right.
but but it definitely it's in character for the movie.
Yeah.
But it just made it look pretty funny.
Sure. Yeah.
Speaking of the Baron,
Yeah.
him going just completely nude. I heard in one interview he wanted to go nude in more scenes
Yeah.
for some reason.
Stellan Skarsgård.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, in the book he's a pervert.
Oh,
Yeah.
that'll be why he
And
wanted to do that.
pedophile, like, he's like has little boys in his room and stuff.
Ah,
But obviously this is PG, so we're not doing that.
yeah, right.
He's a bit of a weirdo.
But that's sort of like his the sort of scary aspect of him in the book. Like he's not just like in this I feel like he was just typical like, oh, I'm like this disgusting big bad guy.
Yeah.
Whereas in the book it's like more like, oh, you're disgusting in that way, but like what you do is also disgusting. Like how you just like the physical form of him is one thing, but then also like what he does is like also like it's like okay.
Yeah.
Big bad dude.
And I'm just gonna say it outright. I think Stellan Skarsgård, not his performance, but the character was probably the weakest part of the movie for me.
Sure.
And that's just because you have all the really devastating dark stuff just taken away because it's a PG film.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
all the stuff that really makes you hate the character just isn't there. So it's just a regular bad guy who just you can't really hate.
Yeah. I sort of got Lord of the Rings vibes at one stage when he's like eating eating the food, in Return of the King when that guy's the king's whatever he is, he's like eating food like really disgusting in a way. I was like, okay, that's like
that?
But I don't know if that's
there's a parallel there.
Lord of the Rings going from Dune or Dune from but either way, that's the sort of thing they're sort of going for, like disgusting instead of like just like Darth Vader like imposing, like
instead of like physically disgusting.
So
Just
what did you think of the visuals in that?
Oh, beautiful. I mean, it's probably one of the better parts of the movie, that and the Hans Zimmer score. There's definitely parallels here between Blade. I kind of like to describe it as like a mix of Blade Runner and Arrival.
Sure.
You kind of get all like the real big alien spacecraft in Arrival, and then you get all of the orange shots from Blade Runner.
Yeah.
This is probably hard for you to understand because...
No, I've seen like bits of Blade Runner. I haven't seen the movie, but I've seen like, I know what it's about.
Cool. But yeah, I mean, it's just visually beautiful, man. And like the color grading is just fantastic. And this could have easily been so bad to look at because it's such like a one-tone.
Yeah, just orange.
Just orange.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's such depth to it that makes it look so good. And I love all the promotional material as well. Like how sick is that poster? Like that's just beautiful. Right?
Yeah, it's some good.
Oh my god, sorry, I just remembered while I was saying about the goofy character design. Sorry to interrupt here. The what are they called? The Sadukar? Is that what they're called?
Sardaukar, yeah.
Sardaukar.
Yeah.
Those enemies, they look like Among Us characters.
With the helmet.
With the helmet and the big spade. So that's why I was saying goofy. I was trying to remember why. Sorry.
Right.
Yeah.
There's one sequence where we kind of get like a flash forward to like the final battle. And the costumes kind of look like Power Rangers costumes.
Oh, you mean like when he's having a vision?
Right.
We'll discuss that in spoilers.
Okay.
Let me make a note of that.
But yeah, no, I mean the visuals in this are so beautiful. Especially like, I just want to touch on a few scenes. The first scene where there's the whole scene on Caladan where I think it's do they refer to him as the Emperor? I think it's like the Emperor.
So there is an Emperor that we don't see.
But
It's like Star Wars. It's like in the first two movies, they're like, oh, the Emperor won't be very happy about that, Vader. And he's like, oh, shut up, like, I'm just going to strangle you. And then the Emperor shows up in, like, Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, but they go over to Caladan to, obviously bestow the royalties and such to them. And that scene where, like, the massive spacecraft kind of lands on the planet is just beautiful. And there's another sequence where we first see Arrakis for the first time, so the Tatooine planet. And we see like one of the spice mining machineries like kind of in like the background, and then there's like two characters like standing in the foreground. Oh, it's just so beautiful. Yeah, it's so beautiful to look at.
Even like the first time when you see Arrakis, they're like on a small ship and they're going over the city. Before they go over the city, you can see like a group of Fremen on the mountainside, and it's just like cool things like that where you're like, oh, that's the native people. They're just chilling there.
Like parallel, like the sand people from Star Wars, or like
that's what I thought as well. I think I've actually called them the sand people before, like describing them to people, like. But just the visual aspect. Even the architecture is very similar to Blade Runner 2049 with like the huge buildings, and you're like, someone couldn't live in there. It's just like a box. But that's sort of the visual style. It's like, it's not our world. It's humans, but like so far in the future that like they don't want like couches or whatever. They don't want to like actually like decorate. There are bigger things going on.
I think it's like the year 10,000 or something.
Yeah. But it is human, so it's not like we don't have, like Greedo types running around and like Jabba the Hutts and stuff like that. Like there are like creatures, or like this is just humans. Like the Harkonnens, so the bad guys, they're just humans. But they're just on a different sort of side of opinion, and the Atreides are just humans, and so it's just humans in the future where they can, space travel and all that. So it's grounded in the fact that like we're looking at fellow humans. We're not looking at like superheroes or altered people with altering abilities. But obviously we do have some sort of abilities working in there. So let's go to the sound then. We'll touch a bit on the score, and then we'll also like touch on like sound design and stuff, because sometimes people have problems when like the score's really loud, they can't hear the dialogue, or like sometimes like there's really cool sound effects for like guns and stuff like that. So what do we think of sound design?
A comment I made right after I finished the movie was, damn, I couldn't hear a damn thing they were saying throughout like half that movie.
Right.
Yeah.
Like especially, you mentioned it before, the mother having a breakdown when he's doing the box thing. I could pick up like maybe 1 out of like 5 words she was saying.
She's also like whispering that.
She is, obviously she's
but
whispering.
No, you should still hear it though.
Yeah,
like, you should still hear it.
The point is to hear what she's saying.
Yeah,
like a lot of the time, the score is, which I don't mind because the score is incredible.
Yeah.
But I want to be hearing what they're saying because I want to understand what's going on.
It's just as important, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Look, the sound design's pretty good. I think it's just that Hans Zimmer going overload. Which I'm not going to complain about.
Of course.
Because I think the score is probably one of the best parts of this. But I think the sound design is pretty brilliant. You know, all of the explosions are well done. All of the battle sequences are great. I mean, there's really nothing to fault other than, you know, probably Hans Zimmer just going a bit too loud at times.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of like a Tenet situation. Like the music's really good, so it's really loud, but then also like let us hear what's going on. Like for instance, when Paul's about to leave Caladan and we get the song "Leaving Caladan," funnily enough, there's no dialogue and there's a ship going. So it's like, give us the loud score, like let me hear the notes, and it does. Yeah. But then when he turns and says something to the Duke Leto or whatever, bring it down a bit so I can hear what it's actually saying.
I think it's a lot better handled than it was in Tenet. I think the sound design in Tenet is just absolutely horrific.
Sure.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Which is funny because I think it was nominated or it won.
So it won like sound editing or something.
It won some sort of.
I don't think it won, but it was nominated.
Was it the Oscars?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why.
Yeah.
The Oscars.
And like
the Oscars.
I think Christopher Nolan has like a massive issue with like sound design.
Yeah.
But I think it's pretty poor in sequences, but overall it's fairly well handled. Yeah.
And just sitting in the theater listening to that score and everything, it's just like, oh yes, like just give it to me.
Yeah.
Like, it's just so good,
No.
Give it to your Hans Zimmer, like, oh, what a god.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other thoughts on any general stuff before we sort of dive into some more detailed thoughts?
Zendaya is like really hot. I loved her in this movie. But like, I was saying before we started recording that I like Zendaya's performance, but like obviously these two here didn't really enjoy it as much. I'm getting the sense of.
I think she's just not given enough in this movie, which is fair enough because it's probably accurate to the book. But like,
I don't like how she didn't have enough, but then she was marketed as like the main.
Yeah, that's the problem. That's the problem because a lot of like you watch the trailer and you're like, okay, so obviously Timothée Chalamet is the protagonist, and then then there's Zendaya, and then that's where you think the order is that she's like second in line. But
like try to think of like probably one of the most screen heavy actresses on this is probably Shannon Duncan Brewster, who's Dr. Liet Kynes, who obviously tries to ride the thing. You don't even remember her being marketed for the movie, but Zendaya is like plastered everywhere.
Yeah,
she's got.
That's just because she's like they're trying to get in that Spider-Man crowd. They're trying to get in the Zendaya fans, and I mean they probably would have gone anyway. But I do feel for them because they were marketed something different. If they just read the book, they would have been like they would have realized that.
Apparently, she's a bigger part in the second movie.
And
it's like I've heard that a lot. But like, oh, it's okay. She's in the second movie. It's like, well, I'm here to watch the first movie.
Sure.
Show me her in the first movie.
100%.
I do understand that complaint. Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of Zendaya, but I thought she was fine in this. But like, I am worried because she will be like more. Right. She'll have more involvement in the series as it goes. But whether she can do that, I mean, remains to be seen because.
Haven't seen her in anything that really surprises me.
I haven't seen her be fantastic in anything. I thought she was like at best average in No Way Home.
Yeah.
And like the rest is just I've seen her in like The Greatest Showman and like the Spider-Man things, and she's just not good. Like
I'm with you there. I don't think she's a great actress. I'm just remembering the days of Shake It Up with her and she was on. Disney Channel.
Is that as she's like really young?
Yeah, like she's like a child with another actress.
Wow.
I can't remember the other name, but I'd always used to watch her on the weekends, and like that's how I knew about like Zendaya. I'm like, wow,
Right.
she grew up to be an actual like actress. Like, she was
Yeah.
terrible in this show.
Yeah.
Obviously, it was a kids' Disney Channel show, so
Yeah.
they weren't asking for much. But yeah,
She's probably got a fantastic agent. Like,
Oh,
her
probably.
agent must be...
working overtime,
Bruh.
just like the Rock, mate.
Like, she's
Just like
she's
The Rock.
somehow got herself in, like, the biggest franchise at the moment.
Yeah.
And, like, a genuinely good, also very big franchise at the moment. Like,
Yeah.
that agent deserves to be paid, like, a
Does
lot
The
of
Rock
money.
even have like an agent or is it just,
Oh, yeah.
Mate,
probably.
if he's
I'm
got
in this
into
movie.
every movie ever existed, and then Fortnite as well. It's like,
I
what
don't know,
else?
maybe The Rock just like walks up and he's like, okay, I'm going to be in
Yeah,
this
I'm here now. Like, use me. Yeah.
Well, you see Zendaya's in Fortnite now.
No way.
Yeah, she is.
No way. She's not.
Is it the Dune outfits?
No, it's Spider-Man.
Oh, it's,
Are you
He's
doing-
he's just in normal clothes. as
What?
MJ.
Since when?
Since like yesterday, like
No way.
Yeah, no.
She's becoming the new Rock, bro.
So they got like Tom Holland, but like he's like in the Spider-Man suit,
Oh.
and then Zendaya is just like in normal clothes.
What? What? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
right.
So you know.
Anyway, on to the movie.
You learn something every day.
You
don't
do.
All right. So one of the first scenes is.
Whoa, are we entering spoiler
Oh
territory?
yeah, of course, yeah. So
Yes.
spoilers for Dune Part 1, the movie. So the movie that's just come out, which is the first half of the book. If you have not seen the movie, go and see the movie.
Yes, that's a given.
Yes. If you have seen the movie but not read the book,
See it again.
then no. Then,
No.
then you're okay. You can keep listening
Yeah.
because I won't spoil the second half of the first book, which is going to be the second movie. Yes, I did it.
Yes,
Yes.
well done.
Okay, Gom Jabbar scene. So the scene where he puts his hand in the box.
Yep.
We were sitting in the theatre and it was a bit quiet, and then Jayden just goes, "What's in the box?" And it was like really loud.
Did I say that loud?
It was like a few rows in front of us would have heard it, and a few rows. Like I think it was a very quiet moment, and like I don't think you expected it to be as quiet as it was. And
Yeah.
you were just like, "What's in the box?"
I thought it was going to be something like a knife or something, like chops his hand off. Like, that's the rite of passage
Yeah,
or something.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
no.
The way it's described in the book is that like he feels like fire in the box, like burning his hand,
Oh.
and then
Like
he
pins
takes
and
it out.
needles and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's fine.
Yeah, so it's like a test by the Bene Gesserit, like the top Bene Gesserit, whose truth said to the Emperor, which means like she's like a walking lie detector test. Like if you try and lie to her, she's gonna know.
Right.
And so that test is for Paul to see whether he's gonna like pull his hand out of the box like an animal would, because like an animal instinct to just like pull your hand away, get rid of the pain. And they couldn't have him in charge because of like the amount of power that he has. So it's like a test of whether you're human. But like in the book, I was sort of like, well, he's human. Like he doesn't have fur. Like he's just a normal person. Like well, why do you do this test? But maybe I missed. I didn't comprehend that stuff because there's so much going on. But in this, it's very clearly described that because he has so much power, they couldn't let him live if he operated on instinct. He has to be smarter than that.
Yeah.
So.
And is that in the movie described as to why he has so much power? Because it said like, is it because I'm the son of whatever his name is, his father? And then the chick's like, no, it's because you're the son of your mother.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's like, and I heard the mother say they've been weaving bloodlines for thousands and thousands of years.
Yeah.
But is there a description in the movie as to why there's like good bloodlines and bad bloodlines and stuff like that, or more powerful ones?
So I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Sam, but the Bene Gesserit operates on a strictly female bloodline, and then obviously Duke Leto and Rebecca Ferguson had Timothy Chalamet, a son, as their next of kin,
Which is a no-go.
which is like a no-go.
Yeah.
And then they obviously, the mother was like trying to train him up to be like a Bene Gesserit, which was...
And what is the Bene Gesserit? Is that explained in the movie?
So the Bene Gesserit, well, I think it's sort of just implied that you'll see that there's
like
only...
the Force users.
It's like an only female religious race, but like what they have like the power of the voice, so they're like a religious sort of thing, like they can command you using the voice. They have that ability, but like they operate on their own sort of agenda. So
Yeah.
like, while there's Bene Gesserits like in House Harkonnen and House Atreides, so technically they'd be like warring or whatever, they'd not like each other. These they'll still help each other out because they're Bene Gesserit. It's sort of like a higher.
And the Bene
duty.
Gesserit is the race, because I thought
It's
that
like
I thought that was the one, like, chosen one as what the name is, or is that different? Like the Bene Gesserit is the people who can use the voice.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's another name. What's the other name?
What for the Paul?
Yeah.
Because I thought they were doing that whole test to see if he was the one. Or is that
So no. So that test, the Gom-Jabbar test, is just to decide whether he's smart enough to live or whatever. Like, no, he's not an animal.
Yeah.
And so that, okay, that's cool. Like, he can have the power. But what happens is that in that test, something awakens within Paul, and he expresses like this ability to sort of take away the pain. Like, you can kind of see that in his eyes. You get the bit of like the female voice going like when he's like, and he's like pushing back, and like that you can't do that. Like, no one does that. Like, you can't. But because he's a male, so the Bene Gesserit, they have like this legend. What they're trying to do is they're trying to create like this messiah, this like one that will lead them all to like the light or whatever they said. Like, so they're trying to create like their god or whatever, and they're doing that by like crossing bloodlines. But like, you can only have a son if it's like approved. Like, if it's like, okay, we think you can produce the one, let's go have a son, and like we'll decide whether he's the one or not. If he's not, we'll just kill him.
Right.
So it's a pretty big deal if you have a son as a Bene Gesserit. So what she's done is she's just had a son like on her own accord, because she thinks that she can produce the one, which Paul sort of kind of, you know, shows signs that he could become. Because he's got like the visions ability. That's why she's like, have you been having visions? Like, tell me about these visions. Do they actually happen, or are you just like seeing a different future or whatever?
Yeah.
That's why she's very concerned about those visions. So, so they sort of have this like god. They're trying to produce their god.
Right.
But there's all different layers to that, you know, just in terms of their own sort of agenda. That's their agenda.
Yeah.
But they're sort of like, in Dune, you have the Bene Gesserits, which are the witches, essentially, like the female witches. And then you have the Mentats, which are like the walking computers. We saw one of them as Thufir Hawat.
Yep.
He rolls his eyes back. And so that's him like calculating stuff. So in this universe, there was like a war with AI and androids and stuff. And so they're outlawed now. Can't have them anymore. So instead we have like humans that have like subjected themselves to like become computers.
Yeah.
Right.
So like Duke Leto asks him, he's like, how much did this cost to like, for them to come here to this planet? And he's like, like, you know, it's this amount of...
C-3PO.
Yeah. He's like, gives the exact answer. And you're like, okay, so obviously he's a very useful thing. So you just be like, you know, how much did they cost to come here? And he just tells them straight away. So, and then you have also like, obviously you have like the warriors and stuff. And then I think there's one more that I'm just forgetting at the moment. But there are sort of different like races. Like, imagine like a survival game where you're like, okay, do I want to be like a trader or a a fighter or whatever? There's like all different classes of people.
Right. Yeah. Cool. Just like another thing that I picked up on. I don't know whether this is like entering spoiler territory for the second part, or if it's explained in the second part, but this is just something that I picked up on in the first part, so we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
Thufir Hawat has like a black thing on his lip, which is what you see with the Harkonnens.
Oh,
so
okay.
Is he previously a Harkonnen turned Atreides?
Well, ooh.
So it's explained. Okay, don't talk
No. I don't think it is, but that character does. Let's say that might have a significance that I'm not aware of.
Okay.
But like, let's just say it's more easy to cross house line than we probably think it is.
Okay.
So perhaps, maybe. I mean, it might be explained in the second or the third one. So.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
I won't touch it.
I didn't realise that Harkonnens had a thing.
Yeah, no, they've got like a little square black thing on their bottom lip.
Yeah.
And what was the deal with the doctor? Why was he like a walking kind of touching? Was he supposed to be like an advanced type doctor, or is he like
I think
actually
that's just his power is to
he has power or right? Okay.
Just his How?
I think in the book he might be explained as like some sort of stealth assassin sort of thing.
Right.
Like that was his like previous thing, but obviously now he's like serving Atreides as I think like a doctor because he came in and he's like, oh, let me check out your brain or whatever.
I mean, his name's Dr. Yue. So
yeah,
I
you'd
hope
imagine.
he's a doctor,
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, his motivations for like betraying the House Atreides are like more explained in the book.
Right.
It's one of the things because in this it's sort of like we see him a few times and then the next time we see him he's like betraying them.
Yeah.
Whereas in the book we sort of get a few moments where it's like, oh, okay, I can't understand why this guy might turn on these people.
Well, they do explain it in the movie that the Baron's got his wife in unending torment or whatever.
Yeah. But I think one of the strengths of this movie is that like we get the essential parts of the book. Like there are a few scenes that the book nerds are like, oh, I wish that was in there, and I sort of agree. There's one dinner scene particularly that I would have loved to see in the film, but it's not necessary. Like this is still a fantastic movie. Like we get all the points, but obviously with a book you have just have more time to sort of ruminate in the world and sort of see how that goes. But Gom Jabbar's scene, I mean, it was quite good. Timothy's acting was quite good.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
But yeah, so let's go from there to sort of the arrival in Arrakis and sort of, the introduction to House Atreides going to Arrakis, the sort of like the impending doom. Like, did you guys feel that there was like, that they were walking into a trap sort of thing? Or
Yeah, I had that like, I don't know if it's just me watching a lot of sci-fi stuff, but it's like, there's no way this, because it's presented the house, is it Harkin?
Yeah.
The Harkin is they're just big imposing force, they've been there for ages, and then one day they just all of a sudden leave, and it's like, they're always going to come back, and it's said in the movie, like, then there's no way that they're just going to let us go this easily, they're going to come back and they're going to fight.
Yeah.
And they, sorry, you go.
Honestly, I didn't really get it. I didn't get any sense of impending doom, and that was just being very naive.
Just like, those racist people, I'm sure they'll fine.
Yeah,
just go
like
do
the people
something
that
else.
enslaved the Fremen, they're just going to let them go.
They became better people.
I guess I was just, too subdued by Hans Zimmer in that scene to notice. But as it kind of goes along, you're like, maybe there is something sketchy going on there. They're being set up, and then obviously that's explained through. I forgot her name.
The Fremen doctor.
The Fremen.
Liet Kynes.
Liet Kynes kind of goes on to sort of explain that, as to why the Fremen were kind of let go and then the Harkonnens left.
Right.
Yeah, so as it goes along, it becomes more and more obvious, but from the start I was just like, they're just trying to get more wealth from Arrakis.
Yeah,
because we do have that little exposition dump at the very start of the film with Zendaya being like, who will be our next oppressor or whatever, and then it cuts to the Dune Part 1 sort of title. Yeah. And that was cool to just very quickly introduce ourselves to the world. But at this stage, like with them going to Arrakis and stuff, how did you guys feel in terms of like the information stage? Like, were you like puzzled at any time in this film, or do you think it did like a pretty decent job of like introducing you to the basics of the world?
I think I can speak from the casual, because I hadn't read the book at all like you guys had before the movie. No.
Yeah, you weren't puzzled?
I was very puzzled. Like, I got the sense that, like, okay, there's an emperor, there's this house, there's this house.
Yep.
There's the spice as the essential commodity, whatever, but then why were they oppressing the Fremen? Why did they leave all of a sudden? Like, did they do anything to the Fremens? Like, why are the Fremens hiding from them? Obviously because they're oppressing them, but why is Atreides getting picked to do this? Why are the Fremen looking for...
There's a lot of questions.
I'm coming in with a lot of questions, which some are answered, some are not.
Yeah.
So I think, and I talked to one of my mates who isn't like a casual or whatever, and he had the same thought, like, throughout the whole movie, he's like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
So that's what I thought coming into the arrival.
I think that's just what you get from film, book to film adaptation. There's always going to be questions that you have because you haven't read the source material, and that it raises a good question as to whether you should read the source material before you watch the movie, or whether you should be able to watch the movie and get it all on the first try.
And that's the big debate between book readers and movie
It's
goers.
a big debate.
Because on one side, I want to go to a movie to find out what the books are about, and I just want to see the movie. I don't want to have the back line. But then other people are like, well, it just enriches the story and enriches your experience of the thing. So it's difficult.
It is difficult.
Yeah, and they do certain things that are not in the book, and they cut things that are in the book, and but there is you do get the basic sort of. All they had to do really was put forward the main theme, which is that, you know, Paul's sort of rise to power could result in pretty bad stuff.
Yeah.
Like that's all. The main theme is like this power is not innocent. You know, power corrupts all. Like power is not a good thing, and even the best of people can be like seduced by it, and it can turn into horrible things. Because at the start you're like, oh, these House Atreides people, they're quite nice, you know. And then
that's what I thought as well. I thought they were the good guys and everything. And it's like,
and then you see like Paul's visions of like this huge war that he's sort of like starting, and and then towards the end he realizes that, whoa, like I don't want this to happen. But and then that's sort of where the film ends. It's like, oh, like, is this gonna happen, or is he gonna be the hero, or is he gonna be the oppressor, or you know, is he gonna be just as bad as the people that came before him?
And I thought, just on Paul, I thought it was a bit weird that like he was supposed to be having visions of the future, but then some of them came true and some of them didn't. Like how he had like how he had the vision of him being friends with this bloke, and like the bloke teaching him the Fremen ways and how to do everything. And the first time he meets him, he kills him. It's like, well, but he saw Duncan dying, and that happened exactly how he saw it. So it's like and I think that's obviously part of the whole mystery and everything. Like some things are, some things aren't going to happen.
The way I interpret that is that it's Paul's power is kind of unstable. Like some stuff becomes true because he has the power, and then other stuff doesn't become true because he hasn't fully recognized the control of his power yet. So it's just kind of, you know, him growing up and realizing what to do with it. So some of the stuff's just going to be completely inaccurate, and then other stuff will come true.
Right.
The Jammer stuff in particular, in the book, like he has a ton of visions at the start, and then he sort of, when they get into that tent, which is about towards the end of the film, he sort of has some visions again of like the jihad, which is like the war, the big holy war. And then, so there's sort of like tons of visions, some visions, and then like towards the end, there's like some more visions as well. But like in this, it was like, every scene, like almost every now and then we get a, you know, compilation of Zendaya, you know, looking at certain, and I was like, you know, this is a lot of visions, but he didn't have that many in the book. It's sort of just like it comes in whenever it needs to, like sort of like for convenience almost. But in this, I think he does have visions in the book that don't happen, and I think it's sort of like he's still seeing the future, like whether it's, you know, the future that's going to happen or not. Like he's still envisioning things, but he can also change the things. Like it's not like this is going to happen. Like, what's a movie where that happens, where they have a dream and it's like, you know, that's going to happen. I'm searching for that. Arrival. Is it? Does it? The dreams? The dreams, and you know what's going to happen. And she's like, at the end of the movie, she's like, because she sees her future, and her child dies of cancer or something, and but then she still has the baby, and so she's, even though she knows that's going to happen, and the moral there is that like it's still beautiful for what it is, sort of thing. Like
live in the moment, don't
precisely, right? But this, it's sort of like he's seeing versions of the future. He can influence that. Like it's not ironclad. Like that's not going to happen. That's why with the Holy War, it's like, can he change this?
It's kind of like Anakin Skywalker, you know, where he sees visions of death.
That as well. Yeah, that's what I think. I think that might have been what I was searching for just then. I just got onto Arrival by mistake.
That's funny. That's like exactly what it is.
Yeah, I feel like I'm going to see sort of Dune inspiration in a lot of things now. But yeah, so that's a lot of visions and a lot of just Zendaya just like looking in certain areas. I will admit, like some of the time I was like, okay, I get it. Like Zendaya's, you know. I'm looking at Zendaya. Like,
it's just Zendaya walking on a rock, like.
And every now and then she'll have some like blood or something. There'll be like blood on the thing, but yeah, it does go to show that is his main power in this world, like the fact that he can see into the future.
And all the other Bene Gesserits, they can't do that. They don't have divisions, or they do, but his is better.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Yeah, they can, but maybe they kind of can, but he's just like he can see it clearly. Like he can see the future, and that's like a huge asset for him. Just to, even in the book when he's fighting Jamis, he's like, okay, if I do this move, he's going to react like that, so I won't do that move, I'll do something else. Yep. He can do it, like, he can micromanage situations, and, like, he can manipulate people because he knows what they'll do if he does a certain thing. So when it comes to, like, swaying the Fremen in his favour, he knows what to do because he knows how they react to certain situations. So it becomes, like, this just incredible, like, manipulating
I guess we kind of see that when he first puts on the still suit, and then he obviously tucks like the pants into like the cuffs of like the boot.
Yeah, and how the Fremens do it.
Yeah, so I think it's just little things he can, like you said, micromanage and control and sort of see the future.
Yeah. Another thing I really liked as well is that they specifically mentioned the fact that the Bene Gesserit have been at work here. That's what they said, because when they come to Arrakis, the Fremen are like, oh, it's the Messiah. Oh my gosh, it's the Messiah. Yeah. And it's like, Paul's not a Messiah. He's just a kid that has pretty cool powers.
Yeah.
But like, because the Bene Gesserit have been trying to create this Messiah for so long, they automatically like just throw themselves at him. They're like, and it's manipulation. Like, it's not real. Like, he's not actually a god.
Yeah.
But like, this manipulation from this Bene Gesserit race of just going to planets and just spreading the word, there's a Messiah will come. It'll be a son with his mother. He'll come to lead Arrakis to a paradise. So like, oh yeah, I'll follow this guy to the ends of the earth. It's like just pure manipulation. It's thousands and thousands of years of just working at them, and so that when he does come, they're just got the ultimate power. Like, you might as well conquer the universe now.
Yeah, right.
So they did specifically mention that, and then also like the power imbalance between the Atreides and the Fremen. They have the trees there. The trees aren't in the book. You know how they have like the
palm trees.
The palm trees, and it's like these cost like 5 human lives every day. And Paul's like, so why don't we just cut them down? And he's like, oh no, like this is it's a tree. It's a clear thing of like, we have this tree. We could cut it down and save 5 of your friends, but we're not going to because we can. This is our tree. This is our power over you. So. All right, let's go to Ripples in the Sand then. What did we think of the first time we saw the big dude, the big worms?
It's my favourite scene. I mean, it's just so well done. The whole impending doom of the sandworms kind of getting closer and closer and closer.
Tension.
And then Hans Zimmer it just pops off amazingly well, and you kind of you first hear like the drums, and then it all kind of builds up towards the massive explosion where the sandworm finally arrives. It's just such well crafted,
And is the sandworm? Do you reckon Star Wars took that from like I can't remember the scene, but the
Crate Dragon or something?
No, the one where Boba Fett falls into.
Oh, the Sarlacc pit.
Yeah, that looks like the sandworm now.
That's fair. Yeah, with the spikes on the inside.
On the inside.
And there is like crate dragons in Tatooine as well.
Like what we saw in The Mandalorian season 2, episode 1, where they're coming out of the sand.
Oh right,
So
that's just clear. Like,
that's like completely.
They're just taking it from Dune.
But to get back to it, I think this scene is just so well crafted. I think the way that Paul sort of enters the scene is well done, where he sits down and then he has like a flashback, and then we come back and we realize that he's stuck, and then obviously Josh Brolin runs out to save him, and then we kind of see them run back, and then this like really cool epic like hero looking shot where he's holding like
and they see
and then there's like the massive sandworm just like eating like the refinery.
It's sick. It's very cool.
Yeah, it is one of my favourite scenes in the movie for sure.
And where does it come in where the sounds like the really popular song was like, "Wah!" Is that the scene where it comes in, or am I thinking of something else?
That comes in at the Gom Jabbar scene.
It's also in the Bene Gesserit.
It comes in throughout.
That was my favourite part of the sound. Wah!
It's cool. It's sort of like the Wonder Woman stuff in the Snyder Cut, where it's like ancient lamentation music. Just like tons of people just going, Yeah, but that's a good scene. And I love when Paul's on the ground and he can hear Gurney's footsteps coming, and he's like, I recognise your footsteps, old man.
Yeah.
And then he sort of puts his hand on the shoulder and the music just goes,
Just
but,
goes like completely.
it calls back to the earlier scene when Paul's training and he hears Gurney Halleck come through and he's like,
I recognise your footsteps.
yeah, he's like, I recognise your footsteps, and he's like, well, I could be someone imitating my footsteps because, you know, that's just how advanced they are. What did you guys think of like the shields and stuff, like the armor and the weapons and everything? Like they have like the force, the shield that like if you hit it really fast, no damage, but like you have to like slowly go through it and then you can.
Yeah, you start talking about it because I'll find the
I thought it was pretty cool. Like, when he first showed like the shields, how Timothy like hits it and then shows the audience how it's done.
Yeah.
But then I kind of. When they're fighting, I don't really get the sense of how the shields work because it's, you know, quick and everything like. And I really like how Duncan in that fights, but it's hard to understand how the shields work. But they are really cool, like, and how the Harkonnens have the technology to go through the shields with like a penetrating.
Yeah, with the bullet that like slowly goes in and then it goes.
It's pretty cool, right?
I think it's really cool.
So there's a 1984 version of Dune that obviously came out in 1984.
Yeah.
And
without computers, so they couldn't do
it's just
CGI.
arguably like a worse version. And this is what the shields looked like back then.
No way.
Yeah.
What is that?
Just to give Sam like a...
Oh, it's like Minecraft.
What is that?
It's like... There's the new one.
Yeah.
So it's like such a vast improvement in terms of CGI.
Yeah.
It's like in this
Minecraft,
film, they actually have CGI.
Yeah.
And like, well done to them in 1984 for creating that. But you know, it might have been a bit ambitious to create a sci-fi project back in 1984.
Was it 87? 84?
84, I think it was. Which, you know, Star Wars came out in 1978. I want to say.
Right.
Yeah.
So maybe not the best time to make it, but
Oh well.
oh well.
At least you tried. So let's go then to the fall of Atreides, sort of like that impending doom sort of builds up. And
another great sequence.
Yeah. And it's I hate to be this person, but it's so much better in the book because we have so many more scenes where a traitor is present. People know that there's a traitor, but they don't know who it is.
Yep.
So at one stage, Duke Leto finds out that there's a traitor amongst his inner circle. And then suddenly everyone mistrusts everyone.
Yep.
Duke Leto sort of like loses it under the pressure.
Yep.
And Duncan Idaho's like drunk because he's losing it under the pressure as well, because they know that someone is, you know, going to betray them, but they just don't know who.
Yep.
And it sort of becomes like this murder mystery, like who's going to do it? And that's when
that sounds a lot better.
That's when the book grabbed me. Like it had me by then. I was like, I'm reading the rest of this book. And at one stage, Duke Leto thinks Jessica is the traitor because even though she's his concubine, like his love, like she's a Bene Gesserit, she serves a higher duty. Like maybe she is like you know, gonna bring down him. So everyone is sort of, you know, fighting and stuff, and there's traitors. Even there's like Harkonnen spies that have been like wormed out of like of just like the castle. Like they'll be having dinner, and because of someone's accent, they'll realize that that guy there, he's a spy, and they're like communicating with each other using their abilities. And it's like prepare for violence. Like that's one of the signs Jessica did in this movie, but in a different scene. But there's a scene where she's like to Paul, she's like, prepare for violence. And it's just like, the tension is just like through the roof. But unfortunately that wasn't in it, but they still used the whole prepare for violence line. So that was cool.
And I did want to quickly touch on, you said about the love between Duke Leto and his wife. I think the relationships in this movie was actually really well done. Like the whole dad and son scene, where it's like, look, you could become the ruler, but if you don't, I don't mind. You're just my son. Like that's what you need to be in the whole Paul with Duncan and Paul with his mother, and it's like...
I think Oscar Isaac was pretty phenomenal.
I really enjoyed it, and how like Oscar Isaac... where was I going with that? Oh yeah, where Harry like poisons the Baron, and he's like, he's willing to do it all because he knows like his family is safe and like he can die.
I think he thought his family were dead at that stage.
Oh, did he?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because the Harkonnens like
kind of like a last resort.
your family are dead, like
Oh yeah,
because the Baron thinks that they're dead by this
Yeah,
stage.
yeah, right.
But obviously they're not. But unfortunately, Duke Leto doesn't know that, so he's like dying, thinking that like his family have been murdered, and it's just so sad. Like, but Oscar Isaac just like.
Yeah,
it's really well done.
Yeah, and I love the fact that like he's naked, like not because I'm a pervert, but like because of the power imbalance that just shows. Like he's like stripped naked of everything, like his power, like his clothes, like he's just completely vulnerable.
Embarrassed, you know.
Yeah.
For a split second there, you know how the Baron's eating things, and then it cuts to like him being naked.
Yeah.
I thought he said like he's like eating his.
Oh.
And I'm like, what the hell? I turned to Jane and I'm like, what the hell is going on? It's like, would he be that weird? And it's like, and you described him before as being disgusting, and it's like, was he actually eating? But no, he obviously wasn't. But like, that's what I was thinking during that.
I think that scene was spectacularly well done, where this Dr. Yue approaches after being sort of ratted out as the spy.
Yeah.
And then we see from Dr. Yue's perspective, or Oscar Isaac's perspective, where we see him sort of approaching over the table, and he rises up, and it's all in blur, so you don't see any detail, and then he approaches up.
And I think that's really cool how the Baron has so much power and so much like people fear him, so he doesn't even care to walk. Like he's got a device that lets him just fly.
I think he's too fat to move.
Yeah, and that as well. But it's like he doesn't even want to do that. He flies because he can. And no one's gonna. Because if you wanted to, you could easily kill him. Like if you're in his inner circle, because he can't move.
Yeah.
But like no one wants to because he's so feared and so respected. Not respected, but feared. Yeah. I think that's really displayed when he just floats over the table. And just like, oh, you wanted your wife? Join her. Bye.
I think they did a pretty good job of making him like a menacing character.
Yeah.
But again, it's kind of disappointing that we didn't get that really disgusting aspect of him.
Yeah.
Maybe this movie should have been MA.
I think so. I mean, Blade Runner's MA, and that's Warner Bros. Though going to be like, look, Zendaya fans are going to go see this movie, which means like Spider-Man fans are going to go see this movie. So let's make it PG because we want to like market it to everyone. Which is unfortunate because like I would have liked a bit of blood and the Baron doing some more nefarious things, sort of like off screen, just to like make us hate him more. But I think he might have some more development in the next movie, but we'll see what they do.
And another negative I had with is just like his survival through the whole poison sequence.
That irked me in the book as well.
How did he survive? Is it described?
I think it's because he had his shield on, but
it's like
it doesn't really make sense.
Doesn't make sense.
And obviously they can't kill off the main big bad. Well, he's probably not the main big bad, I wouldn't know, but like of the movie, he's the main big bad, and it's like they can't kill him off.
He's got plot armor, right?
Yeah. And I was irked by that in the movie because I'm such a fan of, I mean, not the movie, the book, because I'm such a fan of Duke Leto, and I want him to like go out in style, because I mean Duke Leto dies thinking that he's going to kill the Baron, but he doesn't.
Which adds to the sadness of it all,
but he does kill his like the Baron's like mentat, which is played by David Dastmalchian.
His mentor.
His mentat, so like his walking computer.
Oh, right.
He's like his right hand man essentially. So it does. My favourite scene in this movie, I think, overall, is when the Atreides realise they're being attacked, so they run outside and they're all in like their pajamas. But like
Josh Brolin's like, with me, man.
So they're walking out. There's like a whole like crowd of them, and like Gurney Halleck's like walking out with them, and like two dudes approach, and you're like, oh, they're like Atreides dudes because they're like just so casually walking up, but like they're Sardaukar, they're like the bad guys, and Gurney's just like the general, just like rolls up, just like murders them both, and the other lads are just like walking, like they're not even helping him because they just know.
They know he's gonna,
And then like after he does that, he's like, with me, and then they run. It's like, oh, so those two dudes, they're just like.
And you sort of see that like zoomed out shot where like they're both like colliding together.
And we never see Gurney again after that.
No.
We could see him again. We don't know. Obviously, you can't say anything. But I think because the Sardaukar and is it Sabu or Sardaukar? Sardaukar. I'm taking it wrong altogether. The Sardaukar and like the Harkonnens, they'd speak of Duncan and Gurney being like all their big forces of Atreides, and they're like they're supposed to be feared, and it's like, I hope he didn't die, because I know Duncan dies, and it's like, oh, that's sad.
Yeah.
But I hope Gurney's on the same level of can kill everyone in the room at any moment.
Yeah. I just loved, like, one of the first shots when he runs out, and there's, like, this over-the-shoulder shot, but it's, like, over his shoulder, but then you see, like, the spaceship, like, in space, and there's, like, little spaceships coming from it, and he's, like, Holy Mother in Heaven or whatever, and it's just, like, this is from... I love those human perspective shots, but it's, like,
the sense of scale.
Huge thing.
Scale is well done.
And he's, like, they realize that they're probably going to die, that they've been betrayed, they're unexpected, like, but they're just, like, running out, and then, like, the bagpipes play, and I'm like,
oh, the bagpipes are fantastic.
Yeah. I was like, mate, like, I was like Endgame level, sort of like, I want to go out there and be in the fight with them. Like, I was like, oh, and then like the bagpipes were going, and I'm like, yeah, let's go, boys.
Just like the colour as well, and how it's like all set at night time, so you have the oranges on the black.
The explosions and stuff.
There's a bit of a parallel there between Aragorn sort of running out in a crowd of orcs in Return of the King. Just sort of by himself, and then, you know...
when all hope is seemingly lost, they're just like, let's just go for it, boys.
Gurney Halleck running out.
I always do love when a movie can, like, get me to feel like I want to participate in a bit more. It's like, I want to fight right now. Like, it's getting me so hyped, and so the music's getting me there. I love that sense of the movie. And you're really immersed in it. And
the way how, like, the bombs sort of come down and they're like spiraling.
They're going into the shields. And
then you sort of see the explosion contained within the shield.
Oh, it's so cool. I mean, that special effect is just like, you don't imagine that stuff in the book. You're just like, you know, like, it's gone. It's just like, but just the detail of, like, you see the thing going through the shield, and then in the later scene you see like the dart going through Duke Leto's shield, and
he's trying to grab it.
But he can't, because it's
and then the Duncan does it with his sword, and he sees it going through, and he like flicks it out with his sword. It's so cool.
It's just so many like little special effects things that you know.
I think those fight sequences with Duncan in hallways are just fantastic. And you're going to see that in the Batman as well, because there's a trailer shot from the Batman where we see obviously the Batman in a hallway sequence, and there's like gun shots, but it's like a dark hallway, so you like every now and then you see it like lit up and Batman's like fighting bad guys. It's going to be exactly like that, because it's obviously by the same cinematographer. So
it's cool. So I guess that sort of brings us to Duncan Idaho's sort of like escape, and then him like communicating with Paul, like saving Paul as he like runs away. But did you guys notice when he's flying away, there was like a blue light that was just like destroying it? Like, so that's a las gun, and those are illegal. So like that's like a dirty move, because so they do have like lasers in the universe.
Like the Death Star laser.
Yeah, it's just like an indestructible thing, like a thing, and they've been outlawed, and but the Harkonnens are using them because like they're so confident that nobody's going to know about this attack that they're just like, alright, let's just play dirty. But then also we have the Sardaukar. So the Sardaukar are the Emperor's troops. So the Emperor is supposed to be like the king, like he's like the independent figurehead, and then you have all the houses. So the Emperor can't like just be like, House Atreides, like, I'm gonna kill you. Like that, you can't do that. But like the Emperor, like the whole reason why the Harkonnens were brought out of Arrakis was so that the Atreides could go in, and then the Emperor could attract just slaughter them. And no one would know, because like the Harkonnens would just do it. Like that's just what the Harkonnens would do. So the whole thing is just a plotting thing of like the Atreides is becoming so powerful that the Emperor feels threatened. So the Emperor's like, you know, taking a side, and that's what Paul like literally says at one point. He's like, the thing the houses fear the most is that the Emperor is going to take the other side, or come out and just destroy them. So I love the specific scene where the Harkonnens are in black and the Sardaukar are in grey, and you see the black troopers fighting the Atreides, and it's like pretty even, and then the Sardaukar come in behind and just slaughter them because they're like the Emperor's troops, like they're just like the
and they always just float down from somewhere, and it's so sick.
So like silent, and it's just
and speaking of how different places fight, how the Fremens fight, how they jump up out of the sand,
it's cool, right?
And how they can literally do that within seconds. Like they heard the ship coming, and then they drop the cup, and they're like all under the sand, ready
that's
to
actually
attack.
A really cool sequence where like the Sardaukar or whatever they are, like sort of
because it's silent, like it's like
it's all silent, and they come down. and then
boom.
they pop up from the sand
Yeah.
and like attack them.
Yeah, because it shows like the power. So like you have the Harkonnens, then you have the Atreides, then you have like the Emperor's troops, and then you have the Fremen. Like the Fremen are like the most deadly.
Yeah.
But like the Harkonnens have like so underestimated them that like it's such an untapped like resource.
The desert power.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so the Fremen just like just annihilate them.
Yep.
But like it's still like pretty even. Like the Sardaukar aren't just being slaughtered. Like the Sardaukar kill some of them like all the time, obviously. But just having like that Duncan scene, like knowing that Sardaukar, like the best troops in the galaxy or whatever, are gonna come and try and you know get Paul, and Duncan's just like, no, not today, boys.
Stuff this.
Yeah.
It's like a real cool hero moment
Yeah. What did you guys think of that scene?
I really enjoyed it. I as I said before, Duncan is really cool. I liked him and his relationship to Paul and everything, and he had a really cool sacrifice.
Yeah.
Like saving the mum and the child.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it.
I think it was just cool because he knew he was going to die. Like,
Yeah.
there's no way he's surviving that.
Especially the sheer number of them.
Yeah, and he just keeps on going and going and going. And then, obviously, one of them stabs him in the back and he falls down, and then we sort of
Just gets up.
see him, like, rise up again.
Yeah,
and
one
attack
final
him.
push.
Yeah. It's just such a cool moment for Jason Momoa there. Yeah.
It is a hero moment, and Jason Momoa in interviews he was just like, oh, wait until you see this scene, bro.
He's like the biggest, like, teddy bear, bro. He's
such a fan of this movie.
such, like, passion for his work.
Yeah.
I really enjoy him.
So we also enjoyed Leah Kynes' death, right? Like with the
Oh, I loved it.
Yes, it was so good.
Yeah.
That leads me to what I was talking about before with how the desert power and how the Fremens can ride the sandworms, man. Oh my
It's just
god.
such like a cool like aspect, right? Like,
When you see her on the horizon of the dune, like, and then she whips out the hooks while thumping for the sandworm to come. It's like, damn, it's about to go down.
Yeah.
It's like, oh.
And then obviously the Sardaukar like
stabs her in the back.
Yeah, and you see like the water flow out of her still suit as well.
Yeah.
Just because like the suit itself is like just full of water.
Yeah.
And then it's just you get stabbed and it's just like it's flowing out of it. It's like, whoa, that's not blood though. Like that's just water.
Yeah.
So and then she punches the ground and then the worm comes. That's not how she dies in the movie. Well, actually, she's not a she in the movie.
In the book, you mean?
In the book, you mean?
In the book, yeah, sorry. So in the book, it's a male, and I'm pretty sure it's a white male. It's played by a white male in the 1984 one. So they've done the whole gender race swap. But I mean,
I don't mind it.
It's fine. I mean, the character's still good, and the performance is actually really good.
Yeah.
So
she's great.
yeah, she's like doing this like. She seemed so like otherworldly in like her performance, like it just seemed like she was from a different culture than the Atreides, which is exactly what she needed to do. So, dies a bit differently in this, but it was still really cool for her to be like. So she doesn't like call a worm or anything.
Yeah.
But it was just cool for her to see that. That's how they call the worms. They get the hooks out and they're like ready to go and stuff. But yeah, so it was cool to see like a bit of a tease of like that because.
And then you see it at the end.
Yeah. Because I don't think that's not shown in the book, first half of the book.
Yeah, it's just cool to put like imagery to what happens in the book.
Yeah.
I always find it really hard to read a book and then sort of picture something and establish something in my mind.
Oh really?
So it's always cool for me to like watch something and then establish what's happening there in terms of the book and what it looks like.
Yeah, that's one of the things I do like about books though is with some people obviously like you can't imagine it, but with me I like to imagine like my own version of what happened, and that's the problem I have with watching movies and then reading the books.
It's kind of all
because
set in stone.
that's what I do with Harry Potter. Like I watched all the movies and then I read all the books.
Yeah.
Oh, I did the reverse.
Oh, did you? And I based all the books off of. Like I read Harry Potter and I thought, oh okay, he's that guy, and Hermione did that guy, and it's like that girl, and it's like I could have imagined it so differently.
Yeah.
If I hadn't seen the picture.
It's interesting like which way around you do it because it totally influences like your thought on the movie. Yeah.
Oh, I did it a different way. So I watched the trailer, was like, oh, this looks cool, and it's Denny V, so I want to watch this.
Yeah.
But I also want to know what's going on, so I'm going to read the book.
Yeah.
But then when I was reading the book, I was like, okay, Leah Kynes, who's that? And then so I go back to it's Sharon Duncan Brewster.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And you looked up on
imagining her, like, I mean, it's a man, so I kind of didn't imagine her specifically, but Duke Leto, I was like, oh, who's that? Ooh, Oscar Isaac. That's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah,
like,
right.
And so I'm like, ooh, okay, that's Oscar Isaac. And then I'm like reading, and I'm like, where's Jason Momoa coming? Like, and then I'm like, oh, there he is. That's cool. Like, so it was kind of helping me, you know, sort of picture everything, because I was like so excited for the movie. So it was cool to read the book and then see that on screen as well. And I know there's so many fans who've read like, you know, the 15 books, because there's the books, but then there's also like the dictionaries and like the encyclopedias, and there's like the information booklets and stuff. So it's just like, and there's comics and so much stuff, bro.
It's like Star Wars. Like
yeah, it's a huge world, and I'm just like, I'm so glad that it's a great movie.
Yeah.
Because and we're getting another one. Because if this was a great movie and we weren't going to get another one, like, oh my god, like, not again. I can't do that again.
Not after Snyder.
I can't do it again. All right. Any other things we want to touch on before we sort of leave it off? We're going to sort of go into some more other like things, like the music segment and such.
Just trying to think of do we want to touch on the final fight sequence, or
which one's that one? Oh, with Jamis. Oh yeah, we can do that. Yeah, I forgot.
I don't know much to say. That's on you.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty well done. I think a lot of people had irks with it being the conclusion to this movie. Obviously, it's a movie of such scale. You want something huge, but you have to remember that it's a two-parter.
Yeah.
And personally, I quite like how it ends. How it's sort of it's subtle. You know, it's not big.
It's still a big. It's his character arc though, because at the start of the movie, it's like this Paul kid is like a bit timid. Like he hasn't really grasped his power yet. He's not really like applied himself to the real world. Yeah. And then like at the end, like he kills a man. Like now he's started the path.
Yeah.
So it's still like a character arc, but I do understand when people are like, oh, you know, where was my big explosion at the end? And you know. But we did have some pretty big explosions throughout the movie. So
I've been satisfied by that.
You get what you're given.
You've been Michael Bay all out.
Yeah, just come back for the next one, I'll say that.
Yeah.
I really like just the intimacy of the fight itself. Just like all of the moves, like it's all very hand to hand. Like there's no sort of like huge jumping and, you know, cool moves. There's just like classic sort of just like dodge, like parry sort of, you know.
I like to compare it to, sorry to cut you off, I like it to compare it to, I know you haven't watched Rebels, but it's the scene where Obi-Wan and Maul like fight, and like it ends in like seconds.
Yeah, it's technical more than like technical. Show off.
And that's what I like about it, you know, it's planned out, you know, you can actually see Paul going through the stages of fighting, you know, he's sort of toying with him as it's explained, which I find like really cool.
Well, no, the Fremen like asks if he's toying with him, but then the mother's like, well, no, he just doesn't want to kill him.
There's also an extra element in the book, which I was surprised they didn't put in, but so in the desert you can't use your shield because the worm will just like eat you immediately. Like they just
because of the vibrations.
So in the desert, no shields, like can't do that. And Paul, he's been trained his entire life to fight with shields. Yeah. So when he goes in for the killing blow, he does it slower than the Fremen, because the Fremen don't use shields. So they're just like ferocious, like stabbing and stuff. Yeah. But like being a soldier of like the Atreides, like he's learnt like the refined shield fighting style, and that means that like his killer blow would be slower than Jamis's, because Jamis is just like wild, like throwing hands. But Paul is like using the correct technique and slowing down before he contacts Jamis, and that adds extra tension, because even though Paul's going to win, and he's like this powerful being, and this is just like a Fremen dude, like it adds extra tension because you're like, oh, like he can't kill him because, you know, he's doing it slower than Jamis would. He's never fought without a shield before, and it's said like, and that's like a big tension, that as well as the fact that he hasn't killed anyone. So that's another reason why still guys like, he's just toying with him. Like, why doesn't he just kill him? Like, he's being slow about it. And it's like, he hasn't killed anybody, but also he hasn't fought without a shield before. So he's going in slowly. So then it's harder to, you know, just go bang. Like, so.
I also like the shot where he like raises the knife above his head. I think
Like
that's-
Duncan did,
just like
yeah.
Duncan.
That's pretty cool.
Apparently that was something Jason Momoa like just did
Oh really?
on the day.
I
Yeah.
think that's so cool.
Yeah. It seems like it's some sort of like Atreides like signal. It's like you know, fight with honor, or, you know, something like that. It's just like an honorable thing to do, but like a salute almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it would be criminal to not touch on Yavi or Barden before we wrap up. Obviously the leader of the Fremen.
Right.
I really like the sequence where he first, you know, has a talk with Oscar Isaac and Co. in the Atreides.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
Yeah,
He like spits on the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's a light humor, and maybe it shouldn't be in this, but I think it's
it's exactly how it is. Isn't it?
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and it is a pretty heavy movie, so some humor's not not
It's
the
good
worst.
to have. Yeah, I think you've only got like 2 parts of humor in this.
Yeah.
Where, he, you know, Duncan's first talking to Paul, and he's like, "Look at you, you put on some muscle." And he's like, no.
Yeah. So there are a few things, but yeah, I really like that as well because he's like, still like he walks in with some sort of swagger, like he's just like he's independent. He doesn't care about this duke or whatever.
Yeah.
And he spits on the table, and Gurney's just like, "What?" Like he
Yeah,
puts
like-
a knife, and he's like, "You will address the duke as sir, or you know, sire, or whatever."
And then at the end of the conversation, he's like, "Damn, I really like him. He's cool, isn't he?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just commands respect from everyone.
Yeah, just does not care. He's like a rock star.
I also like the fact that their knives are like teeth of the sandworms.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool.
It makes you wonder, like, how on earth did they get those teeth?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sam's gonna Sam knows.
He knows.
Sam knows.
All right, so let's touch on one more thing before we wrap it up. The Power Rangers callback. So I made a note of that.
Oh.
No, I'm not gonna like pull some Power Rangers lore on you. Like, no. So that vision that he has, of like with that armor,
Yeah.
and he's like fighting, and he's got like the blue eyes and
Yeah.
stuff. That's like a vision of the Holy War. So like, he's had a vision that like Paul will go on to take hold of the Fremen, like become the Fremen leader, and then like because their force is so powerful, he's just gonna like take over the world, and like millions are gonna die, and he's just gonna like, you know, just become an authoritarian leader that just is just brutal. And so he's had this vision of what is to come, or what he thinks might be to come, because he can influence his future, obviously. And that's sort of like the main concern at the end of the movie. Like, we have this super cool vision where, you know, people are dying and Paul's fighting and Chani's like, yeah, nice, like, you know, got the blue eyes and all that. But then at the end, that's sort of, you feel like that's a concern going forward. Like, is that going to happen?
Yeah.
And at the very end, Zendaya's like, oh, this is only the beginning, which is like sort of like, oh, okay, there's, you know, either this is going to happen or it's not going to happen. Like, we're going to have to see.
Yeah.
And Paul like smiles, and you're like, oh dear, like, is he enjoying this power that he's just gotten? Or and then the final person we see is Jessica, and she starts off smiling with Paul. Paul moves on, and then she just has this concerned look.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, and that's the final frame. Danny V's always said, like, when I do my final, like, I don't do post-credit scenes because my final frame, like, I'm going for a certain emotion, and I want that to stay with the audience. And for this, I just, like, the main emotion is just concern. Like, this boy has gotten insane powers. Is he going to use them for good or for evil? For evil,
Yeah. Sort of like a dwelling, right? You know, it's building up. And
it's like a brooding sort of like, almost, it's not a, I wouldn't say it's a cliffhanger, but it's definitely like, ooh, like, what's going to happen?
It gets you thinking.
Yeah.
I hate to say this, but I absolutely hate the CGI in the holy battle sequence where, you know, we sort of see Paul take off the mask.
Oh, that's bad, that is bad.
That looks terrible.
I don't know why. Maybe they just couldn't do the helmets physically, like...
I hope they adjust it for the final battle.
I imagine they would.
Yeah, maybe make it practical, because the CGI there was just pretty terrible.
Yeah, because I imagine the suit itself was practical, like there are people in those suits, but like maybe they just, it looks like they just put his face on the suit, but it's a person wearing the suit, and I don't know why they did that.
It kind of reminded me of the sequence in The Rise of Skywalker where Luke and Leia are like fighting.
Right, with the
as, like,
helmets.
Jedi, and they're sort of like de-aged.
Or in Civil War, where Iron Man's in the in his suit, he takes off the helmet. And his like head's like shimmering,
And
like
his
bobbling.
body's like completely
Yeah.
still. Yeah.
That always weirded me out. That's CGI, but yeah.
That's fair. Now,
Yeah.
I also thought that was rough. Even in the trailer, I was like, ooh,
Yeah.
it's a bit rough. Anyway, any other thoughts, boys, before we wrap it up here?
No.
No.
All right, let's go to music segment. So every week we not every week because, we're busy people and we have, we do other things outside of this podcast now. But every podcast we do, we put 2 songs from the soundtrack into a playlist on Spotify called the Rewatch Playlist. This week, Jayden's just given you a sample of the score. So Jayden, what songs are we putting in the playlist this week?
Ripples in the Sand and Leaving Caladan.
So, look, those Ripples in the Sand plays when we first see the big worm with the sand, with the spice harvester, and then Leaving Caladan plays when they're leaving
The
Caladan.
music was so loud when Leaving Caladan played.
It's a huge moment, though.
Yeah.
Like, he puts his hand in the water because he realizes that he's not going to be able to do that on this planet. And he's not going to the planet for a holiday. Like, his family are just going to this planet and they will remain there for the rest of their lives. Like, you do not leave.
Yeah.
Like, you don't just go on holiday in this universe. Like, you are on this planet and that is your job to rule this planet until you die. So it's like a huge moment where he puts his hand in the water and the score just takes off. So those are the 2 songs going in. Let's go to some final thoughts. I want to start with Millsy, if that's okay.
Sure.
In terms of final thoughts. Like your tier ranking, so like your A, B, C.
I'll go straight into the ranking. Well,
No,
after
just give you some
thoughts.
thoughts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course,
About
of
it,
course,
justify
of
it.
course.
Yeah,
I've got
yeah.
thoughts. Don't worry, don't
If you
worry.
give it below a B, we're going to argue with you, so you better justify it.
Okay, calm down. Okay, so, again, as I said at the start, I'm more in the middle of casual and fanatic of moviegoers.
Yep.
So I think I'll give the more grounded response.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of, and I do agree with the criticism. You go into the movie expecting a full movie experience.
Yeah,
Like,
sure.
you want to start the movie and end the movie seeing a full story arc.
Yep.
But this movie does not deliver.
Yeah.
Now, I'm letting you know it delivers on everything else. It's a great movie.
Yep.
Sound, design, art, like the CGI, the acting I love, all the fight sequences, everything. But as a movie as a whole, you go into it and think, there's so much more to this that I should have been shown or I should know about.
Cool.
And it's like, well, what do I do now? I've got to wait 3 years for the next movie or go read the book. So I've heard a lot of people say, well, it was a boring movie. Like, but then other people respond saying, well, no, you got to wait for the second movie. It's like, no, I'm here for this movie.
Yeah.
Don't tell me I need to wait because I want to watch this movie and enjoy it.
Yep.
So, yeah, that was my only like big drawback from the movie. Don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed it, but that because I'm in the middle, I understand the other side.
Yeah.
So, you might disagree with me on this.
It's okay.
It's all good. It's all good.
I'm teetering on the line of
Holding
holding the gun to
gun.
my head. I'm teetering on the line of B plus A minus. I'm somewhere in there, and I think because I don't know.
Just say how you feel.
Just
say how you
just go
feel.
for it.
My gut instinct is to go with B plus, but
Yep.
more that I
Just be
think about it,
cautious.
I want to give it an A minus, and I think I'll stick with A minus.
Cool.
That's
Okay.
my final thought.
All right.
Yep.
Jaden, go on then.
Do you want me to go? Okay.
Yeah.
It's an A plus.
No backstory, no nothing. Straight to it. A plus.
No, it's like one of the best movies I've ever seen in a cinema before. I already want to see this again. I've seen it like twice in the span of like a week.
Yeah.
I want to see it again, and I want to see it again, and I want to see it again.
This is the duality of man.
I mean, this is just so perfectly crafted. I have hated some of Denis Villeneuve's projects. Enemy, I actually gave an F. Which is,
Really?
Yeah, I
Wow.
despise that movie. I hate that movie with a passion. I think Sam's even got it up there or something.
Yeah.
Um,
It's on the right there.
Yeah,
he's got like the Denis Villeneuve collection.
Yeah.
Right?
Creed's in there for some reason.
Yeah, what?
Snuck in there.
Yeah, but there's just so much about this movie that I love. I think all of the elements are like literally perfect. I think the acting is perfect. Sound design, music, I think it's one of Hans Zimmer's best. That might be controversial, but fuck it, who cares?
Oh yeah.
That's very controversial, especially with me.
Yeah, I know it is. I think the whole story is fantastic, and it's interesting that you raised the point that if you go into this looking for a complete story, you're not going to get it. It's interesting you raise that because
you think it's different?
I hate to be the person that says this, but MCU fans will be like, I wanted a complete story, but at the same time, they're going to be like, oh my god, Infinity War was fantastic, and that's a two-parter as well. That doesn't conclude.
So the thing is with that, I didn't enjoy Infinity War.
Not you specifically.
But that's the thing, because me in the middle, like you got the people on that side.
There is an argument.
Marvel fans as well. They also go, oh my gosh, that post-credit scene, like, I can't wait for the next one.
Well, I can definitely enjoy, as you say, the movie as it is.
Yeah, I was more so picking out Marvel fans who hate on the story because it's not a concluded story.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's a part.
Well, you could argue that all MCU movies aren't a concluded story.
Exactly, because
it's always leading on to the next
franchise.
Yeah.
But I won't get into that because I'll probably keep on talking about that for another few hours. I think it's just such a beautiful movie to look at. I think the visuals are some of the best visuals I've ever seen. Probably the best visuals I've ever seen. I can't think of anything better. Off the top of my head right now.
Yeah.
It's just such like a incredible movie experience. And you don't see many I'm not going to call this an indie film because it's definitely not an indie film, but a film that isn't.
It's niche.
Mainstream.
Niche.
Yeah, it's niche.
Yeah, it's a big budget.
You don't see many niche films create this sort of hype in a cinema.
Yeah.
I was sitting in this movie for both the first and second time, just completely starstruck by what was happening.
Yeah.
I was like,
fair enough.
God damn, this is beautiful.
Yeah.
And for that reason, it's an A+. There is, we've raised faults throughout this talk. Probably the Baron is probably my biggest complaint with it.
Sure.
Yeah.
And, little CGI things that might not be within their grasp of influence. But for what it is, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm interested in what you have to think, Sam, because don't rate it because of on the book. Rate it just the movie.
Can we just touch on this for a second?
Okay.
Sam has given Blade Runner and Arrival both A+, I'm pretty sure. So
right.
At separate stages. I mean, watching Blade Runner now, I would say that it's it doesn't really get better on the fourth and fifth. Probably the second watch is the best for Blade Runner.
Yeah.
But I think I gave Arrival an A+. Yeah.
Oh, and Prisoners, I think you gave
an A.
Okay.
So
he loves Danny V.
I was like, don't give me the rating first, give me the backstory first of your rating.
He's one of my favourite directors. I just love what he does. It's like Nolan, if I go in to see this guy's movie, I know that it's going to be good.
Yep.
He's just announced that after Dune, he's doing a movie on another sci-fi property, and I've added it to my reading list. I'm okay, got to get that one.
Yep.
So what do you want me to do? You want me to...
Not on the book, rate it on the movie. Just on the movie.
Yeah, but that's okay. But my rating comes from how he's interpreted them in the book.
Okay. You can go that way. Then.
So I've read this book and I really enjoyed it, but the first couple of chapters were a bit of a chore. But once I got into it, I was really into it. I was reading it every night, and it's a big book. It takes a bit of motivation to get through.
Right.
But at a certain stage, it just had me. I was just going through it relentlessly because I was just really into the world and the politics of it. I'm a huge I love a bit of political drama and especially the drama aspect of it and the picking sides and the betrayal and the power imbalance and stuff but then I also just love a good CGI war thing, and space Star Wars. So this is the perfect meeting of Star Wars special effects blowing up stuff and then political narrative that's motivated by certain powers.
This should have been what the Phantom Menace was.
That's a good that's very true.
Fair.
Just the entire prequel trilogy, really.
The other way around, sorry. Phantom Menace should have been what this was.
Yeah. But so reading the book, I was really into it, but I really don't know if like I would have stopped reading the book a couple chapters in, like if I hadn't known the movie was coming out. A lot of people like read the first chapter and they're like, bro, no, stuff this, like I can't even, like it's just not for me. But no, I love the book. And going into the movie, all I wanted was a fantastic representation of that really, really good book.
Yeah.
And I got that. Like, sure, some scenes that I really liked in the book weren't in the movie, but like, I recognize you can't put the book in the movie because otherwise it would be 6 hours long.
Yeah.
Like, so, and what an experience it was, like sitting in the theater and just like absorbing that, like all of the elements, as you said, Jayden, like the cinematography, the acting, the music, like all of it just comes together perfectly. And you can see, like, even in interviews, like Denny V, he's just so knowledgeable of this universe. Like, he hasn't just read the first book, he's read all of them. And he just has a love for this universe. And I could really see that just like in the designs of like the ornithopters, so like, you know, the X-wing, like dragonfly things. Just like everything from that to like the costumes to how the performance is done. Like, it's a really mature version of a very mature story. And I just love it because it's got everything that I really like, but it's also like it wants you to do a bit of work. Like, it's not just like, you know, a dumbed down version of it. Like, it's still presenting the same themes, and that's exactly what I wanted. The Baron is like, that's probably the worst part again. Like, I would sort of agree, but like I didn't find him bad at all. Because a lot of times, like, the emphasis, it's not the Baron's story, like, and people like the Baron, like, they just exist. Like, Hitler just, like, he doesn't have, like, an origin story. He just, like, exists. Like, I'm just seeing, like, bad guys. Like, bad guys just exist. Like, it's not, like, we need to be, like, I don't need a Baron prequel
you don't need
to,
an
like...
explanation to everything.
Exactly. Like, he's just a bad guy. Like, I think the Harkonnens, what they're going for is just, they're just racists. Like, and I just get that. Because, like, there are people like that. And they're just, like... If there were people like that in a future where they had this sort of technology, it's probably what they'd be doing. They'd probably just be out there slaughtering people. Like,
probably, yes.
Yeah, and if they were their own house, like, they're all encouraging each other, like, this is their culture, like, it's just ingrained in those generations of Harkonnens. So I really enjoyed the world. I can't wait for part 2, and I really hope he does part 3, as in the next book, even though I haven't read that book yet. But yeah, it's an A+.
Yeah.
A+?
Yeah.
Ah.
Do you wanna have anything to rebut that, or like what?
No, as I keep saying before, I agree with both sides, so I can see where the A+ is coming from.
I completely agree your understanding. Like, some people, this is going to absolutely bore them. Like, no doubt about it.
And this movie is not for everyone.
I agree.
And that's where I'm coming from. It's not for everyone, but it's definitely enjoyable. It can be enjoyed by everyone.
Yeah.
So, where do we think part 2 is going to go? What do we think is going to happen, boys?
I don't think you can get much better than this.
No, as in like, okay, well, as in like what you think story-wise, what's going to happen?
Story-wise, I think there's going to be obviously a massive battle between the Harkonnens and Atreides, and I definitely think the Emperor's men are going to join the Harkonnens, so there's going to be 2v1 really. I do think Paul is going to become the chosen one. I think that's been set up pretty clearly. I think he's going to become... actually, he might end up becoming a Fremen with the powers, but choose not to, like, rule Arrakis, just, like, live with the Fremen and, you know, create children with Zendaya. Sort of just become, like, a native, go, like, full-on native. Like, So I think he's just going to sort of end on, like, a sweet note where he chooses, you know, a subtle life over, you know, ruling the whole of Arrakis.
Cool.
And I think I might go opposite to you there, because he said like, let me be emperor. And they're all like, what the hell? No, you can't do that. And he goes, I want to do it anyway. And I think he'll use the power of the Fremen and the desert, because you see he has the blue eyes in the holy battle. However he gets that, because it's said in the movie that the Fremens are born with that, and that's their trait. So however he gets that, you know, what he's awakened.
It's just when you accumulate spice, like when you're constantly exposed to spice, your eyes
I thought they were just... Okay, right. So I think he becomes, you know, the Fremen warrior, but then he wants more. So he goes to kill the Emperor. And I don't know if he's going to be a bad or good one, but I think he's going to become the next Emperor.
Okay.
I think that's going to be the second,
Cool theories, cool. very nice. I'll neither confirm or deny any of them.
Of course,
so,
of course.
Yes.
So yeah, and I'm very excited. And Warner Bros, like, you stuffed up here, not greenlighting 2, but at the same time, like, doing them back to back. But then, like, having the time is also a good thing as well. It means we're going to get a sequel that looks just as good as the first.
Yeah.
It's not going to feel rushed. It's just, it's going to be done to perfection again. There's going to be more action, I'll say that much. Like Denny V said, like, I've done the groundwork now.
Yeah.
Now I can just have some fun. So this was a perfect movie in my opinion. And I think the second one, I don't see him dropping off like
Yep.
I don't know, like George Lucas did with the prequels or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it's going to be like, oh, the first one was good, but the second one was, no, it was crap. Like, but,
Yeah.
you know, at least I can watch the first one and then not watch the second one. Like,
Yeah.
I think it's just going to be, like, equally, like, perfect.
Yeah, well, I think the reason you have that train of thought is just because you know of the content that's coming up.
Right.
Millsy and I don't really know what the future of Dune holds. Like,
Yeah.
you know, we've seen part 1. But we don't know the content beyond that, so we can't really know how the movie is going to, whether it's going to be better or whether it's going to be worse.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'll say there's less to do for him. Like,
Okay.
if this, I think it should be the same runtime, because I think either way, it's a
Yeah.
book. Like, there's a lot of stuff that you
Yeah.
need to do.
Yeah.
But, like, I think there's going to be more action and less sort of, like, explaining how, because we know how everything works now. Like, now Denny V can just sort of take that and then use it to generate a story, or just, you know, replay the book. So.
Yeah. I will be surprised if part 2 ends up being better than part 1, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, we'll leave it there for today. Thanks, Millsy, for coming on.
Thanks for having me again.
We'll have to have you back sometime soon or
course.
something.
Maybe Spider-Man.
Maybe.
Spider-Man oil.
Spider-Man No Way Home. So thank you for listening to this episode of the Rewatch Podcast. If you'd like to follow us on Instagram, you can do so at the Rewatch Pod. If you'd like to subscribe to the YouTube channel, just search the Rewatch on YouTube. Next episode, God knows, maybe it's going to be Return of the Jedi.
Don't say it.
Maybe it's going to be
So you're gonna say
Spider-Man.
Mamma Mia. Bro.
Maybe it's going to be Mamma Mia. Who knows?
Hey,
you know?
what?
We can-
Mamma Mia, bro.
We keep saying it's Mamma Mia.
We can never count that out. It's the dark horse. One day. All right.
Never.
Thank you for listening to this episode, and bye for now.
Yeah.